broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Masters of Sex AfterBuzz After Show. We are reviewing tonight Episode 5, Matters of Gravity. But before we begin, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Miss Adrian Snow. That's MSADRIAN SNOW. I forgot how to spell my own name. If you guys would like to go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. I'm so bummed. I thought we were going to have Where is the Love?
Oh, next time.
Where is the Love? That's our intro music. Oh well.
I'm Julie Ann Emery.
Yes.
We have a special guest
Yes, we were
today.
going to say we have a special guest, Julie Ann Emery, who would play Joe on tonight's show.
The unwelcome triad of the threesome.
Yes.
I disagree.
The other
Super
peg.
welcomed.
Yeah. And do you have a Twitter or Instagram?
I am. I'm at Julie Ann Emery, JuliAnnemery, and Twitter is Instagram is the same at Julie Ann Emery.
Awesome.
And I'm Yael Tygiel, jumping in for Will.
Yeah.
You can call me Will. You can tweet me at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to go ahead and get everyone's first thoughts on tonight's show. How did everyone feel about it?
I was really excited about it. I really liked it. But I want to say that I'm really sad that the Margaret Graham Joe thing ended. I don't want that.
I know, you were super on Team Polyamory.
Yeah, I was like, finally a proper discussion about polyamory on TV on the perfect show for it. We're going to have a great in-depth look at it. And
Well,
then,
I called it. I knew it wasn't going to last.
Well,
Sorry.
and a discussion that's not about that's not religious.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
it's,
It was great that we found out the reason, because this guy is someone who's traveled a lot. He did a lot of research about cholera, and that's why his whole thing was like, no, in the world, monogamy is the
the exception.
The exception. You know what I mean? So I think that was really interesting that they kind of colored it and gave us a little background as to, like, why he is so open-minded about this kind of stuff, and why he even would think to do this in the first place.
I think what's interesting about it is this relationship would raise eyebrows today in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you knew one of your girlfriends that was Joe that was in this relationship, you'd be like, girl,
You need to get out.
You need to tread lightly.
Just so we're clear, not in my friend group. No.
My friends don't roll like that.
Right on.
My friends would be like,
Just
there's 5 of us? All right.
20 orgies 24/7.
Noted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would have been a really great dynamic to see furthered, but I just knowing like the character of Margaret, it just seemed like it was such a direct opposite of what she had been dealing with prior. That
She even
just
laid that
wanted
all
to-
out.
Yeah, and that she was just trying to escape from it so quickly that she didn't really think about like, well, is this what you really want? Is this like what's healthy for you at this point?
Because she loved
So,
him.
yeah.
She loved him. She,
Yeah.
and I think she was so happy to finally kind of like feel there was like that reciprocated. That love was finally reciprocated.
Yeah.
And I just think that like she tried. She really did try. But I could tell even at when we first were introduced to this last episode that she was just like there was just like this hint of doubt about the whole thing. You could kind of see just color it.
Well, it's not for
the
everybody.
record, I think he loved her.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I do 100%. I mean, he's going to therapy with her.
Yes.
Doing things that is usually kind of awkward and weird, and he must have really
He's
liked
open
her.
to it.
Yeah,
He became open to letting her lead.
that was great.
Right.
Particularly in the time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This-
I mean, and speaking as just an actor, one of my favorite storylines on the show has always been the Beau Bridges, Alice and Janney
Yeah,
storyline.
same.
I was only on set one day with the two of them together, but just to be there for that was really, was really a treat. Was really wonderful.
Yeah. How was the overall experience of even watching it after you've been? I'm sure it's been a while since you actually shot it.
We shot in June, so it's not been that long.
Okay.
It was the experience of watching something for the first time that I'm in is difficult for me. But I will
That wasn't
say,
the first time you'd seen it. Was that the first time
it
you'd seen
is. It was. Yes. I actually, when I sat down, I sat in the corner on purpose in case I wanted to
a little bit. I totally get that. That's how I feel when I watch this stuff back.
I'm so glad we could be there for you.
Yes, as support.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I didn't tell you guys that beforehand. But it was what struck me when I was watching it. Adam Arkin directed the episode, who I always have admired as an actor, but left that situation with such respect for him as a director. He really pushes the scenes to sort of their outside boundaries, and I saw him all over the episode tonight. Adam has a very sort of dry, quirky sense of humor, and I saw that humor all over the episode. It was interesting. I don't think you see that all the time in television where a director really leaves their mark, and I thought he really did tonight.
Yeah, there was a couple things that were pretty like significant. Like the very end, when after Bill gave his speech, there was some fun, a little filmmaking. They played around a little bit with that stuff.
Yeah,
style wise, which
and
was always
one
nice
of
to
the
see.
scenes in his house, Libby pops up from below. You see her like appear from below where the cabinets are. And I just thought there
little
was
things
some
like that.
there were some interesting little quirks and some interesting editorial takes that he always chooses things with a little wink and a little sense of humor.
Nice, how exciting! Did you watch the show?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you kind of like got it. It wasn't like having to jump on board like into a whole new world.
No.
You
I mean, I've had a lucky year that way. I've wound up on things that I am a fan of. So
that's really always awesome. That's
that's
Yeah.
nice.
To actually
It's
get to
nice
do
to not be
something you
cramming
watch.
for homework.
right. You're like, oh, I love this. It's
Yeah.
great. Well, that's cool.
To already kind of be in love with all the characters and everything and just kind of slip right in.
Yeah, I mean, it creates like a different kind of. I mean, this kind of show lends itself to sort of some research and some homework.
Yeah.
But when you watch the show, there's less of that you have to do.
Yeah.
It's nice.
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, did you guys want to just go ahead and jump into the first topic of Johnny?
Yeah.
All right. So we hadn't seen Johnny in a while.
I always forget that they have kids.
Well, because we never see them. I think we saw
First
episode.
episode, right? Or
Yeah.
the lake
Episode was like the big
Yeah.
thing, and then
Yeah.
he came back for a brief moment. I think later on.
At some point, there was a
Did he?
kid.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I know the daughter definitely came back. Just to kind of say something about Mommy, what's
She
wrong
was
with
folding
Joy.
laundry.
Yeah, I was gonna say they
Some-
were.
Yeah, that was it. So it was nice to see Johnny because I think that actor whose name I need to get, and I forgot to do it before the show started tonight, is so amazing. Like
He's
in
so
terms
grounded,
of, right?
especially for a kid.
Yeah.
He's like feels like an old soul.
Yeah.
He's a really good little actor.
Yeah, he's
A
just
total pro.
holding it down.
Yeah.
But it was a nice kind of topic for them to touch on, just how abuse kind of like how children who are abused, like Bill was abused as a child, kind of
It's like a cycle.
Everything always comes
without
back to Bill's
meaning
dad.
to end up reinforcing that cycle. And even though he thought that he was correcting the bully's actions, he himself was enforcing that type
You mean
of
our true
bully mentality.
detective moment?
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else thought this, but when he got out of the car to go like give this guy a talking to, I was like, he's gonna pull out the brass knuckles, just like on True Detective. But it didn't happen.
Well, he became the bully.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of, you think that you're going to correct the behavior by bullying out of a bully, but you're just kind of enforcing it.
And you could tell like, after the conversation, Bill wasn't any happier. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Same thing with when he had finally proven to everybody at Wash U, when he finally got like the applause that he wanted, he wasn't
Yeah.
any happier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I definitely want to touch on that speech because it was amazing.
We'll
But
get
also, don't
there.
you think parents? I mean, I think that's really difficult to watch your kid get bullied and
Yes.
beaten up and not
Yeah.
want to exact some punishment for that.
Yeah, but
you
I
guys
feel
ready for
like-
this kid's name?
Yeah.
Yes,
Jaden Lieberher.
Jaden Lieberher.
Jaden, and then it's going to be Lieberher. So you guys can look
Lieberher.
him.
Right on.
Lieberher.
I'm a fan, dude. You're great.
Jaden,
Yeah, he's
killing
great.
it.
I think the best thing Bill should have done was you go and you bully the parents, right? Like you don't yell
How
at
do
a
you bully
13.
a plumber? I mean,
I mean, the same way that he bullied this 13-year-old. You say all that. You say it to the dad because that's, I think, going to make the dad talk to the kid. Because him bullying this kid, he just picked on a 13-year-old and made him pee his pants. That's not going to fix anything.
I mean, for a child, well, and I always beat up my bullies. Like, that's what I was taught as a kid, was, like, if your bully hits you, you hit them back harder. Like, that's what I was taught.
That's badass.
Yeah, so for me, it was kind of fun.
You sit next to her.
It was, like, strangely sad and a little bit of fun to see him kind of, like, stick it to this bully, even though he's an adult and it's completely inappropriate. There was a part of me that kind of laughed at just like, this is so inappropriate.
And so immature.
Yeah, so immature. But at the same time, I feel like if, and maybe this just is because I was told to punch bullies, but if he had told Johnny, this is what you say to that bully. This is what you do.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be the better way to go about it.
But they're not dealing with just that issue of bullying.
Yeah.
They're dealing with a man who suffered severe childhood abuse.
Yeah.
So that I mean, I don't think that it was bullying, but I don't think they were even trying to address that in the show. I think they were trying to address the fallout of being continually physically abused.
Isn't it so crazy that when Bill thought that Johnny was the one who started the fight,
he was proud.
He didn't even think to reprimand.
Yeah.
And then when this kid is the one who started the fight, Bill tore him a new butthole.
Right?
Well, what's weird is that Libby also seemed proud because when she presented the letter to Bill, she was like, it's not what we thought. He didn't start the fight. Like as though our son lied to us about being this badass. I'm so disappointed.
You know what's interesting is to see that written. I mean, that is truly a period thing. I don't think a show set in 2015 could write that way and get away with it.
Yeah, I know.
I think we'd be very up in arms.
We'd be
right
like,
now.
oh, come on, a letter.
Right.
He should be expelled.
I know.
I mean, that said, for fighting, you should be expelled.
Well, four
there's a
kids
different-
beating up on one, and the teacher made him write a letter.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
And also there was a boys will be boys mentality that was always happening,
Right.
you know.
And that's still kind of enforced, you know. It's not like, I mean, even when I was a kid, you dealt with your bullies. Like, it wasn't like something that your parents really came in on. And if they did, it was something more like what Bill would have done. Where
Yeah, but
it was
it's
like, or talking
different
to a
now.
parent.
Now is different than when we were kids.
Yeah, I don't.
Did you guys ever see
bullying-
God of Carnage?
No, but
Yes.
Yeah, it's a play.
It's great.
And it's about these two parents whose kids got into a fight, and the two parents get together and they like have to hash it out, and they just go nuts.
You
And
know,
it's
what's
kinda-
interesting is when you were saying that about he should have said that to the dad, I was sitting here thinking, well, not everybody takes that well.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what God of Carnage is about.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It is still like kind of a cycle that we're stuck in. I mean, there was a big issue of people talking about bullies last year. Of just, I think even the movie came out about childhood bullies, and so it's still something that is relevant. And I think it's still sort of being dealt with in that same way. This is what I mean. I don't know. I don't have children. I don't interact with children.
Yeah,
I just-
a lot of the stuff we're talking about is just like how things that happened to you in your childhood. You know,
It's
we have
cyclical.
Tessa with everything that she's been going through, and now we have the bully thing, and just kind of like what does that do to a person? What kind of adult do those kids turn into after stuff like this?
Well, and you've also, they set up a situation in that last scene where Bill is telling his son that he basically didn't want to be around his dad and would rather run away and
And
go
then
read
he
a
runs
book, and then
away.
the kid runs away and reads the book. The kid
Yeah.
is basically like, I don't want to be around
I don't want to
you.
be either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, how dare he spoil that book?
Right?
Yeah. Hashtag spoilers, Bill. Come on. I would run away from me too.
Yeah, it was so
like, "Thank
rude.
you."
I loved that book. Do you remember when this happened?
Right.
And I was waiting for Johnny to be like, whoa, haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
he even said, have you gotten to the part where, and then he just went on, he didn't stop.
It's rude.
It was so funny that like until the last scene, like the conversation that Bill had with the bully was like was way longer than any conversation we've seen him have with
With
Johnny.
his son, yeah.
This is the most eloquent that Bill has been
Yeah.
ever. Like, in terms of like his ability to just
I know.
This entire episode.
make
Yeah.
speeches.
Yeah.
It's just been beautiful.
I know. We were nervous before the speech. It was like, oh no, Virginia hasn't read it. If Virginia hasn't put her touch on it, then it's going to suck.
Yes, but I think what it kind of also plays into is just the lack of honesty that happens in a lot of the relationships. I think if Bill had taken that moment to address like his own, he doesn't even have to say it was his father, but his own experience with being bullied, you know, to kind of find a way to connect. And maybe Bill isn't really there. You know, it takes a lot to be vulnerable in that way, especially with your child or any relationship.
Well, also part of being abused as a child is keeping it secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just speaks a lot to that kind of theme that they seem to be having this season about people just
connecting.
needing to reach out and connect, but not really knowing
not
how to
getting
do that.
there. Same
the
thing
tools
with
for
Barton.
it.
When we were watching Barton make the phone call to his daughter, and I'm just saying, I just want to hear him say it. God, I just want to hear him say it. And they still didn't let us hear him say it. And I was like, oh, you dumb show.
Well, maybe we'll cut to it.
No,
they won't.
I
They'll
think
jump
they're
like
gonna
5 weeks.
hold us hearing it as long as they can.
I know.
Yeah.
But then, so we've got Barton looking to connect. We've got Margaret looking to connect. We're still waiting for this conversation between Virginia and Tessa to happen. That feels like it's never going to happen.
Oh, and Tessa was definitely, I feel like she's acting out more and more. And it's really her being like, Mom, pay attention. Stuff is happening.
How old is Tessa at this point? She's 17, 16?
No, younger than that.
15, 14.
Yeah.
I think they.
Sorry, I'm flashing back to another episode with the dance and the. Sorry.
No. We had a long talk about that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But should we go ahead and jump into Virginia and the parents?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Tessa, based
Let's
off of that. So, how did everyone feel about Tessa? Is just like,
It felt like such a roundabout way. It's like, just talk to your mom.
well, that's what comes down to honesty.
I know. I know.
being able
But
to-
isn't that also what teenage daughters do?
It is.
That's pretty intense, though.
Yeah, I mean,
putting the bow
that's-
tie.
It
And
is. That's true.
intense.
That's true.
That's like next level.
But it backfired
Snot.
on her.
Brat.
It totally backfired.
Well,
Because Virginia's
Edna-
mom is ridiculous.
she had, the parents came in and definitely didn't.
I love
wonder
Frances
what
Fisher. I think
Tessa-
she's
Fisher is
great.
amazing.
I wonder
I
what
think she's
Tessa was expecting to happen.
I think she was just expecting for
her mom to
Virginia
chew
to
her
be
out?
exposed and
Okay.
and maybe shamed a bit, just because I guess in her eyes it's kind of hypocritical.
I don't
In a
think
weird way?
Tessa is. That's the reason I brought up the teenage daughter kind of thing.
She's not
I
that
don't think.
advanced.
I don't think Tessa is thinking that far ahead. I think Tessa is just thinking. Do we curse here?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think she's just thinking. I'm going to fuck over my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she's got a master plan. She's just got. And I hate everybody.
I just want to get back at
and
you.
I want to get
She's
back at you, and
angry,
I'm
and
angry
she's
at you.
hurt because she's had some shit. And
But
so
don't
now
you
she's
think it
just
also goes
lashing
to
out.
like the custody, giving over custody to the dad and leaving? I mean, I'm sure.
There's a lot of things that I think they haven't really addressed with each other.
We're waiting for like a lot of shoes to drop where Tessa's concerned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's had to deal with a lot of stuff. So I think we're kind of waiting to watch all of those issues just boil over.
Can we just say this show writes great female parts?
Yes.
Oh,
This show writes great
Yes.
women.
And even just the looks that are thrown by the women when somebody says something incredibly sexist,
I know.
like when Dan Logan talks about how she was. What did he say? She's like she was pretty and smelled good about the woman who was like gin and orchids.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even want to
Virginia's kinda
listen.
like,
I didn't even want
okay.
to listen to her talk about orchids. I don't like those stupid
Do you
flowers.
think though, like Tessa, like there was a moment where I was like, is it like granddaughter, like grandmother? Like is Tessa going that direction?
In
We've
terms
talked about that.
of
And did you in terms of her grandma?
We've talked about there being probably a pretty significant relationship between them two, Tessa and Grandma.
yeah, I don't. What do you mean by like going in terms of?
Do you
just
think
kind
that
of,
she would want her to steal Bill?
No, I just mean is she patterning herself as she becomes a woman like her grandmother, or like there was a moment where I was like, oh, is she gonna sort of go? Like obviously she's angry with her mom. Is it going to be Libby? Is she because they toyed around in the first episode with making Tessa sort of follows Libby around. They said all of those things, but we never actually saw it. They just sort of said it.
Yeah, because like Virginia is like the antithesis to her mother.
Yeah,
you
and
know
her
what I
mother
mean?
is all scheming, and I'm like, are they trying to say
Maybe.
that?
I can see that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Do
sense.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the mother is always trying to like move the chess pieces and scheme a little bit, and I'm like, is this like the
maybe.
15-year-old version of that, or not?
I'd always kind of hope that they end up, for some reason, pairing her with Betty. Because I think Betty would be the better choice for her to end up kind of adopting as like a surrogate mother in a way.
Right.
Especially because Betty, she's barren. She can't have children. So maybe this is going to be kind of her way to kind of feel like she's mothering in some
And also,
way.
Betty is
Awesome.
saying shit the way it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what,
Watching Betty fix Bill's back was absolutely ridiculous.
Speaking of Adam Arkin, like this crane shot straight
Yes.
down of him like laid over her back was so
It was
great.
so funny, and then to have this
Yeah.
like really, really silly scene into like, oh, now the Bible people are here. It's like nobody's gonna take them seriously after this. Like, it was so funny.
No, yeah, it's that was a wonderful shot. And I think Betty overall is just a wonderful character because it's so refreshing when you have all these other people who are keeping all these secrets and someone's just like, I just don't have time for this. Like, I've kept all my secrets I'm going to keep.
I was hoping we might get to see Sarah Silverman again.
She mentioned her.
Yeah, she mentioned
Helen, so I
Yeah.
assume they're
still
together.
a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's been announced that Sarah Silverman will be back.
I was just going to say that. I thought they.
That has been formally
But
announced.
it wasn't really confirmed like what happened between her and Helen so far in the show.
But we know she'll be back.
But we do.
But it was sort of indicated tonight that they're
together.
They're together, yeah.
And likely living together.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And she has sciatica.
and she has.
Yeah.
So that'll be
little lesbians in the 60s
interesting
thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be
That'll
good.
be
nice
fun.
to have them dress that. And also,
We actually don't see a lot of like, gay relationships on the show, really. I guess a little bit.
That's
We
why
did.
Barton is so great.
Yes. Well, we did. I mean, we did with Betty and Helen back last season,
Right.
but we haven't really touched back on that.
But that's time period oriented too,
Oh, yeah,
right?
definitely.
I mean, like in the closet meant in the closet then, I mean, they were actually. I mean, they touched on race relations last season, and where is he?
we assume he
he's
was
gone.
murdered.
Yeah, that's kind of where we.
But we're not sure. But that's what we just assumed.
Well, she was so upset about it.
Yeah, the first episode
I
when
know.
she was
I wish
crying.
they would out what
I know.
I know.
It's weird how they just kind of like. What?
Well, they
and
do jump
move on.
a lot in time.
Yeah.
they
But everything else has really kind of been addressed. Like in some way, everyone's past relationships has been addressed. Even with Lester getting back together with.
Yeah, I mean, does she feel that way
Jane.
because he's in Atlanta again and there's a lot of murder happening, or did he actually get?
I just feel like before she jumps into another affair, which we kind of like got a hint of, that they would address the prior affair. Like, let's just talk about that.
I think the idea of not addressing it is that later seasons they could be like, you know what we should do? Let's bring
him
that
back.
back. Yeah. Which
That's cool.
I wouldn't hate it. I would love a good callback.
I support
Yeah.
when TV does that, when they're like, we're not going to
fair.
address this because it might happen again.
And that's cool because that's when you get those moments where you go, oh yeah, him. Oh yeah.
That's exactly what happened with Lester.
Yeah, with
his
Lester
wife. I
and
was like,
Jane. Yes.
Yes. But just to go back real quick to Virginia's parents, I don't know. It was the last moment that she had with her mom, and also just like that need for approval. Like that was a big running theme today of just Bill's need for approval. That harks back all the way to his need for approval from his father way back in the day, from people who have shunned him, and to have Virginia kind of not necessarily really want or need her mother's approval, but to kind of receive it in the end.
In a way she doesn't
in a
want.
way she doesn't want.
And then Bill gets from the university, gets what he wants, but doesn't want it.
Doesn't really want it. Yeah,
you know.
it was very interesting to see that moment because you think up until she says that very last thing of steal him, which my mother always said that you could steal a man as long as he wasn't married. But to hear a mom
go
like
get
that,
him, honey.
Yes.
Do you think that
break
also
up this marriage?
is that supposed to tie in a little bit with Margaret and Graham finally be able to be, like kind of finally fixing their problem and then breaking up?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. I don't want to jump.
I just was wondering if that was a parallel, but it's fine.
Of just like them. Say it again.
Finally getting what they
Finally
want,
getting what they
walking away
want,
from
and
it.
then not,
And then not wanting it
staying
anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe I don't know. I think with just with her mom saying that in the end, it was such a moment of like, okay, yes, I have this approval. It feels, oh, you just made my entire life, my entire career about a man.
Yeah.
So it's like all the way back to what she thought in the beginning of like, well,
Mom's old school.
I think it also
Yeah.
plays into when we discovered the beauty pageant thing, that she wanted it, and that her mom always wants the best for her.
What did you guys think about that? About her having that memory wrong?
I mean, we all have. I would start to think of that. I was like, oh, I
Selective-
remember when I
selective
did
memory.
that to my mom, and I'm that jerk, which was.
I just
real
was
bad.
wondering if you guys think that that Virginia had any kind of like a moment of self-awakening or kind of like a moment of self-reflection there.
It didn't seem like it. I think if they had done, I think if the next scene between Virginia and her mom had been maybe talking about that or kind of addressing it, that would have been more of an awakening. But for the next scene to be, because the next scene was them
After the speech.
The speech.
I wonder if it's not that Mom always names what Virginia actually wants, but Virginia doesn't
Maybe.
want to see that. You know, so like the thing at the end is her naming what Virginia maybe
What she kind of wants.
would want.
Yeah.
But
That's a big topic of discussion here. Is like,
I know.
does Virginia want that like little neat house? You know,
well, they're kind of playing house now.
Yeah.
I mean, the baby, they're at her house now.
Yeah.
And you have that moment at the top of the show where they're talking about how great it is that nothing. Finally, they have this moment to themselves.
that was
and they're
really
just-
Which is what parents of small kids do.
Yeah,
right?
Finally.
Yeah. We got him to go to sleep. To have our time. I assume I don't have children.
Yeah, so I haven't really thought about that. I never considered, because it just seems like Virginia's been so against them being like in a romantic. They've been romantically involved, but in terms of being like committed.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe
I
I
always
think
thought
Virginia
that
has
was
like
her.
some serious commitment issues.
I always thought that was her trying to say, no, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing this for the work. I'm doing this for the science. And if I admit that,
then there's
Then
there's a
all the
whole
work would've been
other
about
thing.
it.
more
Yeah.
complicated.
I
than
mean, I
that,
think
yeah.
you're totally right, though, now that I've been thinking about it, that her mom was like,
No, that could be just my fantasy run wild. That happens with me.
No, but
We
that-
should all just admit that right now.
but that sounds so, like, because Virginia's never going to admit, even if that is what she wants, she's never going, I don't think
Right.
she'd ever admit that.
Yeah.
And I don't think she even knows that she's not admitting that she wants
Yeah.
it.
And actively sabotages
Yeah.
it for herself over and over
And
again.
also, you know, she likes Libby. She doesn't want to do that to
Yeah.
Libby.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Well, that's a
Which
big
is
thing.
why I suggest polyamory.
Well, they did kiss that one time, even though
I
that wasn't
know.
really romantic.
right.
Whatever.
did.
I think it's the blossoming of a beautiful family.
When I saw that promo where they were in bed and
Yeah.
they kissed, I was like, oh, is this the season of threesomes? I'm so confused. Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, to jump on that, we should go ahead into Margaret
Yeah, we should.
and Joe and Graham. How did everyone feel about just that overall dynamic of seeing Margaret kind of
Yeah.
throw down and be like, no, I don't like this. I'm not happy with this.
Well, it was interesting because we were talking about last week is, does Graham also have the premature ejaculation
Yes.
problem with Joe? And that was answered in this episode, that yes, he has that problem with both women.
Yeah.
And so I think
It did not have it before there were two
yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and also that Margaret and Graham were together before.
Right.
You know, for some reason, I got the feeling that like Joe and Graham had been together, and then Margaret kind of came in. I don't know why I got that vibe.
I think the reason we all thought that is because we knew that Margaret isn't the person who would be down with this situation, right?
Right.
Like, we knew that this isn't Margaret's idea. So the fact that if it was Joe and Graham before Margaret and she came in and he was like, I want to be with you, but also, by the way, I have this other woman, then that's what we assumed would
Yeah.
happen. But the fact that she was like, I could be okay with this, was such a different side of Margaret that we've never seen.
yeah.
I did think that Margaret was first.
Oh.
Yeah, because I thought for a woman who had lived in such an opposite way of that life beforehand, that it would make sense for her to try and be as comfortable as possible with things that were completely
Yeah.
different from what you
Yeah.
experienced
Margaret
before.
is like so open about herself. She's like so clear. Like she literally laid out word for word why she ended up with Graham and how and why he was so different from Barton and all that stuff. And she's like, you know, he's not broken, I'm broken. Like she's so, I don't know, she's so quick to criticize herself, but she's also very self-aware. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's very self-aware of her whole process and what she's been going through, and also doubting as well, you know, that even Barton can kind of be like, but you have changed. The fact that you even left this man,
Yeah.
you know, they held on for so long.
Oh, 30 years.
so long.
30.
Yeah, even for once we discovered as an audience, like, what was going on with Barton, they still tried to hold on. Even when she found out, she was still trying to hold on. Even when she was sleeping with that really handsome doctor. She was still holding on to
I miss him.
Blonde.
Yeah.
to that possibility.
Loved him.
So that is a big shift when you can go, I'm trying, but this is not what I want. And I'm going to walk out now and do what I need to do.
Well,
for
she's
me.
gonna, I mean, you know, hopefully with everything that happened at the end, she's gonna be able to have a really good relationship with her daughter, who I can't remember who the actress is, because I know
She's actually on
she's
iZombie
blonde.
now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I forget her name.
Crap.
It's Rose McIver, guys.
She's
Rose
Thank
McIver.
you.
Thank you.
She's Tinkerbell on Once Upon a Time. She's Liv Moore on iZombie. Rose McIver.
Okay, Rose McIver. Well, I'm excited
got
to
it
see her
now.
back.
Who
I'm
is-
sure she'll be back.
Australian,
Yeah.
not American.
Yeah.
of course.
They're all Australian
Seriously.
these days. Feels like all these actors are Australian.
Well, I'm from Tennessee, so
Well, thank God for that.
America.
I want to ask about a scene specifically. So when Margaret and Graham are having sex,
yes.
and you're overhearing the
Yes.
sounds, can you tell me how exactly this was shot and what you're actually hearing?
I'm going to tattle on the crew a little bit. So they weren't actually, I mean, that was shot as two separate scenes,
Shock.
obviously, as it always is. You're not actually ever listening. Most often, you're not even looking at what, is actually happening on the other side of the camera, which is an interesting thing when you start bringing people to set. Like, even when you're just turning around on, say, my coverage, I'm hopefully can see the actor's eyes, but I'm also looking at 15 other people, and there's a giant camera there, and so we did it first, and everybody was really respectful, and I was just pretending to hear, and then the first AD started playing something on his phone, like farm animals. And then Adam Arkin got involved. I mean, they started just sort of, I think once they knew they had the shot, then they just started messing.
whatever.
They started totally just messing with me. I know. It was great. It's a very nice, it's a very
on
nice
the set of
group.
Masters of Sex, they treat sex with a lot of respect,
Well,
obviously.
I mean, look, shooting a sex scene,
No,
which
it's
I
fun.
just happily did not have to do in this episode.
But you are in bed with people.
I am in bed with people.
Yeah, you snuggled right on in there.
And actually, the first thing we shot was me in bed with Tate, and then the next thing we shot was me in bed with Allison. I mean, we really just jumped right in.
Just get right into it.
And I love that thing too, where you just think she's there, and then Joe pops up, and she's like, "I could not sleep."
like, Joe, what's up, babe? What are you doing here?
She's like, "Well, I just couldn't sleep. I was just." But sex scenes there's a lot of tension when you shoot a sex scene, and it can be awkward, and it can be hard, and sometimes the best thing that can happen is for there to be a little humor,
funniness, yeah.
and a
Just to,
little
like,
just to
lighten
break the tension, and they shoot a lot of that stuff on that set. So I don't think it's surprising that they go at it with a little
humor.
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
sense of humor, respect for sure, but a little sense of humor.
No,
yeah.
I would take that over being super serious any day.
Oh my
It would
god,
freak you out.
that gets just torturous.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on the people. I mean, usually they take the lead off the actors and how they feel about it. But yeah, there was all manner of things happening on the other side of that door. Yeah, yeah. And also, on the set, what's on the other side of the door I was standing is not actually
Right.
the bedroom. The bedroom on that set was off to the left. Yeah, yeah. But
I'm glad I
all kind of
asked.
like-
Movie magic,
Right?
TV magic.
It's all cardboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. What I did. Oh gosh, I'm so tired, you guys. I apologize. I did want to ask about just like overall, how was it shooting that scene with Tate and Allison? That confrontation scene.
The big scene.
Yeah.
That scene, they had Allison for a very short period of time, so we shot both episodes in 3 days, and the scripts they weren't quite up to those episodes yet, so the scripts were coming in fairly late, so so we were struggling a little bit to keep up with it, which it doesn't come off at all. It's intimidating. Allison Janney, she's one of my heroes.
Allison Janney.
Yeah.
I think I've watched West Wing at least 5 times, the entire series, and I
wow.
will happily go back and watch it again tonight when I get home. And I think she's always brilliant. And I think she's always wonderful, and she's not intimidating at all in real life. I mean, she's
awesome.
very self-deprecating, and she's one of the tribe. And with actors in LA, you're either sort of on a celebrity track or you're one of the tribe. You're just working it out, and
Working
she's
actor.
the real deal. And but it was intimidating to play that scene across from her, and we shot my coverage first, which just made me feel filled with anxiety that I didn't accomplish what would play across from her.
It's awesome.
But she's lovely and quite wonderful, and Tate is lovely, and Beau Bridges is the nicest man in the world. So that was great, yeah. But it was intense, and that scene, it's interesting to see what they cut together, because the way Adam directs, we played the scene. At one point, we were both crying through the whole thing. At one point, we were screaming at each other through the whole thing. So it's interesting, sort of what they sort of pulled it. Yeah, what they sort of pulled it to.
I thought there was so much truth in that. It was exactly how it would be. You know what I mean? Just like just as awkward and like frustrating as
and awful.
Think. Yeah.
It's awful
but
to
really,
actually say those things out loud.
To say those things to someone.
And we played a lot with Jo, with like when is she pretending it's all okay, and when is she going to out it? Like, does she walk in with that from the very top? So is she almost wanting to punish them from the very top, or is she playing it off for as long as possible?
When you were looking at Jo, did you have it like she was cool with it? Or she was just trying to, or she just really liked this guy, or what, So
in my mind, Jo is insecure and almost looking. I think as a character, she's almost the opposite of Alice and of Margaret. But what's driving her to be in the relationship is similar. I mean, I think she's desperate to hold on to a man. I mean, if I look at I'm not in my 20s. And I know Margaret says Jo is young and beautiful, but I don't think Jo thinks that about herself. I think Jo thinks, wow, I'm getting to be over the hill, because if we're in the 60s, and you look at a woman in her mid to late 30s, and she's not married, and no kids, so that sort of indicates maybe she's never been married. So
it's too late at this point.
That's right. I think Jo has a certain amount of desperation there, that she's making it okay with herself as well. There's a line that changed in the rewrites when Margaret says Jo is young and pretty, she's got time, or it said something about why don't you, that line used to be directed at me, you can find someone else, you can find someone better, and I said, well, you can find someone better too, and I think she really believed that, even though it didn't wind up in the scene. I kept that in my homework.
I really appreciate though that Jo, that they, coming from, I guess, this mindset of being so honest with each other, was really open to say, like, you want him to love you more. Because, that's not something, I think, in any situation where you want to ask someone that question and really hear the answer.
And that's hard. I mean, there's a certain amount of that was interesting to see what they chose strength in that moment, but that moment played on the shoot day incredibly vulnerable. Like, I mean, there was a take where I was really sobbing, and then there was that take where she was sort of going at it, which I think was the right thing in the end to give that strength, so that Margaret had something to play off of better. But I think I think a lot of women in this time period, women were starting to work and starting to get jobs. So it was still very difficult. And even now, we're still dealing with a situation where women make less money, even to do the same jobs, where there are areas even in our business where women are not welcome.
They're still trying to take away women's medical.
That's exactly right. We're still dealing with contraception issues for women in healthcare. So I think there is a certain amount of desperation in Jo that I think plays to the time period at the end of the day.
I think it's interesting also that she's a travel agent, because there's something funny about that. Like, she's on the brink of something exciting, but she doesn't actually go there.
Like, they become friends, because she's like, tell me what Paris is like. But she books people to Paris all day long. She sits with her little headset on and writes things down.
It gives us like a big window into her life, just knowing that's how they met.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really, really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we are at time, so we're going to start wrapping everything up.
Yeah. Is there anything?
There's so many things.
We didn't get to the... I guess we did. We talked about the speech, I think.
We did talk about the speech. That's amazing. The last speech.
If anyone has final comments on the speech, let's go.
I said this when we watched it, that someone, when they proposed to me, that's right, people out on the Twitterverse, when you propose, I want you to word for word what Bill said about love and gravity.
It was the absolutely most beautiful thing, and especially for it to come from Bill Masters' mouth of all places.
It's this wonderful kind of like harmony between his science and like his thinking and feeling life, which is his tightrope that he walks this entire time, and it was just like this wonderful little culmination of both of those parts of him, and it was so perfect.
I think it's interesting that Virginia is in a moment where she is questioning what love is in relationships for her, and suddenly Bill's clear. They're almost like sort of swapping places.
That he's becoming more
visceral, and more vulnerable. Yeah,
it was I thought he was going to be cynical and just kind of like slam love, like you don't need. Blah, blah, blah.
I had no idea
so for
what
him to go there and
Yeah.
and to talk about, just make it so epic and the cosmos and gravity. I was like,
and he goes, this little guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Einstein.
yes, it was so just like
I expected him to
just kind of like the Adam Arkin humor you were kind of talking about, just like that. Einstein was the guy.
I mean, I thought that was like sprinkled all the way through all the choices. I could just hear Adam going, "What if this is a little, snarky?" I could just hear him coming in and giving the note. I don't know what happens if.
No, it was awesome.
God, it was awesome.
Oh, I
got goosebumps.
I was just gonna say I expected him to be like, "You can't quantify love." Next question.
Right? Keep going, because that's what we know of him.
Yeah.
But with that said, we should probably wrap into predictions.
Predictions.
For the next episode.
Oh my God, that just scared me.
It's AfterBuzz TV.
I feel like we're in Star Trek, the first one, the original Star Trek.
That's exactly what it is.
Beam me up, Scotty. All right.
Oh, don't make me start.
Yeah, what? You want me to start?
Yes, please.
I could start.
You want to start?
Yes.
Go for it.
I think Tessa will not tell Virginia anything until the end of the season. I think we're super headed to Virginia and Dan, the guy doing stuff.
Well, it's just Charles. I mean,
whatever.
Come on, Dreamyville, right?
I think.
Don't tell Mom babysitter's dead. What?
I think if we're lucky, polyamory's gonna make a comeback.
Yeah. Bring back the
You want the
Joe.
success.
Right.
I just want it to be discussed. I think we're going to see more of Joe. I've said it. I think we're going to see more of Joe. Really, because I want to see Joe and Graham and another third person make
You
it
just
work.
really want to see polyamory.
I just want us to have an open discussion.
Yeah, and
about
you want it to be something where you can actually see this is
Functioning.
functioning. Yeah, because it does. It does. You just have to have two. If it's two women and a man, you have to make sure the women like each other too.
Would Graham be open to two men and a woman?
I want that discussion.
You want the discussion. You don't care. Yeah. I mean,
I
you
don't
want the
care
actual
what the-
talk.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't care who's with who.
What are your predictions?
I don't. Oh gosh, don't make me predict things. I think
aliens will
What do you want to
think
see? What do you want
that
to see?
Tessa is going to have sex. And that's what will precipitate the whole Virginia thing.
Oh, finally.
I hope we see Frances Fisher again because she's wonderful, and I think that relationship is really complex and interesting.
Yeah.
And it seems like Libby is going to have another affair.
That guy.
We were all like, no.
Although I'm all for her being happy. I mean,
too.
let's be honest.
Yeah,
What's
fair
good
enough.
for the dude is good for she should go find
but
someone.
not.
Yeah.
Get some, Libby. Get some.
Do you, Libby?
Do you?
I think my main thing is I'm really interested now to see more stuff about Bill and his son. I'm really excited to see what kind of developments we see in that relationship now that kind of got brought up and where he kind of left off on a very awkward note there at the end. So
I'm
I'm
going to
really
see his brother again someday. I hope Christian Borle comes back at some point.
Oh yeah, Bill's brother. Oh
yeah.
He came into the season in a weird way, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wait, no?
No, that was last season.
You know what I was thinking of? I think I was thinking of Mad Men. Sometimes when I think about
Because of the styles.
yeah, sometimes
we're in the same time frame.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think I hope that Betty and Tessa, like that's what I want to
Yes.
see. I really want to see just Edna and Harry, Kevin Anderson, Frances Fisher come back and just kind of develop their relationship with Virginia more to kind of give us an idea of why Virginia is the way she is.
Who are you talking about?
The grandparents.
The grandparents,
The
yes.
grandparents.
Yeah.
And lastly, I just I would like to know what's going on with Henry. Like, is that weird? Like,
I don't care about Henry.
Now, let's just say there's going to be another divorce there soon,
yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
there'll
yeah.
be one this season.
Aside from Tessa, I don't care about any of the kids.
Well, I just want them to kind of
I like the little boy.
wrap him
Johnny.
up because I think that
Meh.
it's going in that direction where
Yeah.
because he's in Vietnam. So I don't know. That was just something that kind of pops into my head. Like, well,
they'll get into that, I
Yeah,
bet, because it's very time
it's on its
period
way,
oriented, and they'll spotlight Vietnam at some point.
Yeah, I'm also just kind of excited to see what other kind of little, now that we've had a couple things kind of wrap up in this episode, the polyamory and Barton's thing kind of feels like it got wrapped up, so I'm kind of curious to see what's the next issue?
Yeah.
What's the next
On that note, everyone go ahead, say real quick what your names are.
Yes,
and
my
where we
name
can
is
find you.
Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Instagram at Quinstagram, and you can search for me on Vine at the Quinn B.
Julie Ann Emery. I'm on Twitter at Julie Ann Emery, Instagram at Julie Ann Emery, and I have a Facebook fan page, Julie Ann Emery. It's
like.
yes.
You can find me online at yael.tv. That's YAEL.tv. Also Twitter, Instagram, other places at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. That's MSEDRIANSNOW. All right, that about wraps us up for this episode of the Masters of Sex After Show. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
And thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you for coming down. We will see you all next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.